Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I'm so glad you're here. I just read recently, like an hour ago, that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds true, and I'm going to believe it's true. But I just read that today is National Authenticity Day. Isn't it cool? So I didn't know that. So what does that mean? What does that really mean? So I thought about it because I talk a lot about that in my courses, that, you know, we've taken on so many acts and masks and pretenses that we've kind of lost what it means to be authentic. So to me, authenticness means being real. and knowing that we are interconnected with everyone and everything on this planet, and doing what we are meant to do, doing what our capital P, as I always say, capital P purpose is, from a place of trusting your intuition and pursuing what your passion is, and again, what you are meant to do here, and really listening to that. And I find that doing our purpose really means that you're inspired in spirit. That's what inspired means. So I hope all of you are being authentic. I know that I try to be all the time, and especially on this show, because it's just so exciting to me to get to talk to all of these fascinating people that I have so much in common with, yet I'm learning so much as I go. And I hope you guys are learning too. So today, I have somebody on my show. His name is John Koenig, and I know that I'm mispronouncing the German derivation of that name, so oh well. But today I'm going to be talking with John Koenig, and he is a board certified hypnotist, certification instructor, with the National Guild, I'm reading this, of Hypnotists for 30 years.
Wow.
He also, pardon?
I just said, wow, it's 30 years is a long time.
Yeah. And he's the author of 2 books. One is called The Hypnotic Coach, and the other is called My Autobiographies, which I think is really interesting. He has a bachelor's degree in psychology, which I think is a really good balance for what he does. Excuse me. He sees himself as a catalyst for those ready to make big changes in their life, and he helps empower people in profound ways using results-oriented hypnosis. Excuse me, I always lose my voice in the beginning here. I know that a lot of people think that hypnosis is just a way to become a non-smoker, or to lose weight, or to deal with destructive issues and habits and stress, but his work goes much deeper than that, and I'm going to talk to him about that too. Actually, let's just jump right in and start talking to John. So what made you not only become a hypnotist, but somebody that deals specifically with past lives? What inspired you to do that? Tell us your story.
Thank you. I came to this late in life. For years, I did the things you just mentioned: smoking cessation, weight control, stress management, sports enhancement. I worked for 3 years in oncology in a local hospital with cancer patients. And the authenticity thing, I can't believe today's National Authenticity Day. I hid a lot of myself. And I would do past life work if a client asked me to, because they had read about it and knew hypnosis, hypnotic regression was a way to do it. At my point in life, though, I can look at my life as a search for allowing authenticity. And so I came out as somebody that is like this about a year and a half ago with the publication of my book, My Autobiographies. And you're right, of course, it's plural. And I believe it represents a new genre. You can do a memoir of your current life, but when you do past life work, past life regression personally, you begin to see the different contributing. I got to stop just for a second and tell you, I will never know if I have had these experiences for real. I'll never know if I was a prior in the First Continental Dragoons and a caveman type hunter for certainty. I point to the work of Ian Stevenson, where he worked with children who can't be corrupted by watching movies and television. So in my case, these were very vivid experiences, profoundly altering who I am and who I am in the world. But I think part of my mission is making this material accessible to people who get a little turned off by too much woo and a lot of woo-woo. That's my job, I think, on this planet, in this body, this incarnation, is to be a bridge for people. And I got trained in this in a strange, serendipitous way. I do want to talk about divine serendipity at some point. My life, I was a child in an alcoholic family. And an alcoholic family, you don't do authenticity. at all. You are trained to live in pretense. You have to lie to neighbors about what's going on in your house.
Yeah.
You present as if everything's okay, and everything is not okay. Any listener who is raised like that knows what I'm talking about. So you become phony. You become false. You become a caricature, a pretense. And so as I got older and older, doing lots and lots and lots of different things, lots of different types of work, I gradually came to accept myself and to be able to present increasingly as I really am. And the book was a big, a big step in that direction.
Yeah. Let me go back for a second because it's sticking in my brain. I need to say that I do a lot of work with people and discovering their past lives as well. I don't use hypnosis. I use a meditative stage.
Ah,
Yeah. But one of the things I find almost invariably is people say to me, well, how do I know I didn't make that up? Maybe I read a book about that or saw a movie about that. But I had a personal experience of that that kind of validated the reality of whatever it was that was coming up in my meditations as past life memories. And that is that my doggie is crying here. She's very emotional. That is that I used to, when I was little, I would go to the library with my mom and I would be like magnetically pulled to an area of the library that talked about Native American stuff. And I would just read it and read it. And, I was tiny and I was just enmeshed in it, enthralled in it. And one of the very first lifetimes that I got in touch with was a Native American lifetime. So of course my logical mind went to, well, that's because you were reading about, but why was I so drawn to it? Why of all the things in the library was I so drawn to that? So that kind of answered that question for me. I don't know if you say that to your clients, but it's a good way to understand it. It's like you're drawn to it because you remember it and you're trying to remember it. So, yeah.
Even though I've written a book on this thing, I am new to this thing. I've only performed with clients over the years, maybe 40, 45 past life regressions. And for a number of years, I would be in an experimental mode, and I still am. My position is that I can't know, because whatever I experience, if I saw Spartacus last month, and now I have an experience next week with the facilitator, and I find myself a gladiator, I can't. Stevenson's work parses it out. But here's the thing, Royce. I don't think it matters that much
Doesn't.
from the client's point of view.
Right.
Catharsis occurs. We get insights into ourselves in doing this work.
Yeah. I always tell people, so what if you're making it up? It's coming from somewhere. It's helping you. Go for it. Make it up.
And
In fact, I said that to people.
and it's life altering.
Yeah.
Every life, I believe, one of the reasons I was excited about this podcast is I think Royce and I have a bit in common. I know that you started life with questions like, what's it all about?
Right.
And I did as well. I think there are a number of people, you might call them light workers or something, who come or incarnated with missions, missions as educators, as openers of doors. Not that these souls, my own soul, me included, are particularly more enlightened. I don't present myself that way, and I don't claim to be. But we have a mission. And a person's mission, I think, defines really who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was saying about authenticity, that's so true. Yeah. But back to what I was saying about making things up. Sometimes if a student of mine is really stuck and they can't get something in their meditation, I said, well, make something up. And then I give them permission. I give them permission to do that. And they make something up and they're like, wow, where'd that come from? And things start to shift in their life. So yeah, making it up. So
I have to control myself. I'm an interrupter. Please yell at me if I do, but I want to make a point before you go further. Hypnosis and meditation, the line between those two things is very, very, very blurry.
Yes.
And the difference, as far as I can tell, is that hypnosis is directed. In hypnosis, we have what's called heterohypnosis and self-hypnosis. meditation is in the category of self-hypnosis, and I think indistinguishable from meditation, just for
Yeah.
what that's worth.
I agree with you. I find that some people think that when they're under hypnosis, they won't remember anything when they come back, which sometimes happens. The same thing happens in meditation that, I have that happen all the time. I remember it fully when I come back and then it's gone. So do you find that happens with your clients?
What happens with hypnosis? I've had experiences where I've had a client in hypnosis for 40 minutes, and I'll say, I always ask my clients, how long was it? How long was it? It might be hard to tell, and sometimes they'll say, well, that was maybe 5 minutes, and you can tell they feel they've been ripped off. They paid for like a huge long session, and it was only 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I had one client, and this is a true story. It was 30-minute session, and I finished, on the count of 5, you return to full awareness, feeling calm, confident, in full control. 1, 2, 3, whatever, bang. And she said, well, are you going to start? It's called somnambulism, to go so deep into hypnosis that literally you blank out and go elsewhere. Your consciousness is so, it's like, I want to comment about the title of your show, Perfect Life Awakening. And if you think about us as soul, having a dream, basically, a lot of people would resonate. I'm sure listening, the idea that everything is an illusion, that it's all created, that none of this, it all seems very, very, very real, but it's an illusion. It's a dream, and the awakening is like lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
When the dreamer is aware that they're dreaming. And that's what I got by perfect. It's not a awakening to a perfect life in my understanding of the title. Life always has challenges. There's no perfect life, but you can declare it perfect.
Yes. That's what it's about. Yes.
I figured that.
Yes.
I wrote
Yeah.
that.
It's perfect for you and what you're here to learn and what you're here to teach and what you're here to give and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I'm always explaining that. Why did I choose the word perfect? Actually, that the title came to me in a meditative state. It was like it unfolded like a movie screen. It was like, because I didn't have a name for what I do. People would say, oh, I do those classes that Royce does, and I knew it needed a title, and it came Perfect Life Awakening. There it was. And I said, oh, that's perfect. So, yeah. So back to what happens when people get in touch with their prior lives. I know when I do work with people, my goal, maybe it's a little bit different than what you do. It's not so much remembering a past life, it's remembering what you did and what you need to get in touch with from what you did. So I've had people get in touch with, being a Nazi in Germany or being a whatever. And they remember specific incidents, just like they do with the inner work that I do. And they realize, oh, that's why nothing is working in this life. And that's what I need to clean up. And that's why I'm doing this job or this purpose. So it has that kind of enveloped in it. What is the goal of what you do with clients?
We're on exactly the same wonderful page. Exactly the same page. I had an experience. A lot of people like me who work with people are dependent on public perception. Oh, by the way, before I say that, my book title, my autobiographies, and the image where there's my head and as an African shaman, and also as Lena, a Russian wife of a blacksmith, came to me in meditation, fully formed, and that's how it started. And the book kind of pulled me to write it. It wasn't so much that I decided I'm going to write a book. What should it look like? So I had this. We would depend on public perception and Yelp, for example, or Google reviews. So let me go on like a 2-minute little explanation of this, if I could.
Sure.
And I got a bad Yelp review, a 1-star Yelp review with somebody I had never worked with. I had ADD, and sometimes I double book people, and I had double booked. Not only that, I had changed her, and I'd forgotten, hadn't written it down. So she called, "Where are you?" And I felt terrible. And offered to work with her for free, not just one session, but 3 to deal with her issue. And her response was to give me a 1-star Yelp review and tear me apart, that I was unprofessional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I went nuts, overreacted. And this is the kind of thing with past life. If a past life is what's niggling you, it can be an over-the-top reaction to
Oh,
something.
yeah. Yeah.
So I called a practitioner that I had worked with in the past. By the way, I don't believe that past life is ever the first place to look. Usually our issues come from this life. Usually by the time we're 7, we've picked up whatever we got to deal with in this life, usually, and it gets aggravated, I think, as time goes on. So I called this practitioner, and I found myself, I have a vivid experience. When I do it, there are 2 ways to be in regression. One way is to describe it. I see myself in a turret as a monk in ancient times. Another way is to say, I'm in a turret and I'm Brother Thomas. And that's how I usually experience past life. And I was the happiest human on the planet. I loved my books. God and I were good friends. I was as happy as you could be, as complacent. And I taught students to become like me, monks and clerics and academics. And I have 9 students, I think. And I walked down from my turret into my classroom, and there's a new student. And he's the bishop's nephew, and he does not want to be there. Back in the day, if you were a 3rd son or something, you had military or clergy. And he disrespects me, and I go nuts as Brother Thomas. And he's attacking my whole self-sense of complacency and pretense. So I complain to my abbot, who I think is my friend. He turns me into the bishop and says, Brother Thomas has a problem with your nephew. I get called on the carpet, and the bishop says, who do you think you are? You're nothing. And here I am, very upset, sitting like I'm sitting now talking to you, headphones talking to somebody in California who's facilitating. And I go back to the abbot, to the monastery, and I don't get my nice turret, my classroom. I'm in the kitchen peeling potatoes. And the nephew, which was really, of course, the bishop's illegitimate son, comes down.
All the plot thickens.
Comes down with his friends to laugh at me. And I am in despair. And I go out with a rope to a tree and I hang myself.
Wow.
So every life, I think, and I think you, in fact, I kind of know you would agree. I think you and I are colleagues in this work. Every life ends with resolved or unresolved issues. And
Yes.
I ended that life with this horrible feeling of being disrespected. And so anyway, now I still wasn't happy to get a 1-star Yelp review that I felt I didn't deserve, but it no longer kept me up at night.
Right.
And that's what's available to people. I think psychotherapists should be trained to routinely refer to people like you or me for this kind of work routinely, or train it themselves. That if the answer, I've had people, in the 45 or so of these that I've done, who've been in therapy their whole lives and got pretty much nowhere.
I know.
A therapist's favorite line is at the end of a session, so what's good for you next week? Goes on and on and on and on. Often, and sometimes, of course, it's effective. I refer to therapists if necessary. Therapists refer to me, but it's a different discipline from this. It's magical, and the transformational change that can occur is cathartic and can be dramatic.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was interviewed by a doctor of psychology a few weeks ago, and she was reading my book and underlining it with yellow highlighting and all of that. And when we got on the interview, she said, I just never knew any of this. I'm like, you're a therapist and you don't know this. But yeah, it's true. They really don't know the realm of metaphysics and spirituality and reincarnation, all of that. There's so important to know. So yeah, that's interesting.
They're also sometimes trained to be hostile toward it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So back to my original question. I don't know if you answered it or not. You went in a little bit of a different direction.
I will do that.
It's okay. But how did this start for you in terms of
That's
reincarnation help? Yeah.
I was never that interested in reincarnation, and at all. I was more like a Zen type person. Getting closer to that which creates this. I thought a lot of people will go into reincarnation work for reasons that are like entertaining. I think I was Cleopatra in a prior life.
Oh God, how many Cleopatras are there?
I say in my book, the truth is most of us are peasants. I'm a modern day peasant.
Yeah.
That's a fact. I have a little life. I am not a king or anything. Even though my name means king, as I know Royce means, I learned today means queen in old
Yes.
English. And maybe we're all kings and queens, right? In our own world. But this guy I was working with, he was our accountant or something. I used to be an ad guy. There you go. Most of us are peasants. And his friend wife was doing past life work. And I went there out of curiosity. A lot of people go to this work, nothing wrong with that, for simple curiosity. And I immediately, you mentioned hypnosis and meditation. She was doing something much more akin to you, Royce. There was no hypnotic induction. And suddenly I found myself as Private Riley in the first Continental Dragoons. And it was fascinating because I said, you can either experience this describing third person or actually in it. And I felt my mouth curling. She said, what's your name? And I said, Corporal Private Riley. And pretentious little man, Private Riley. And that's how, and I got hooked. I was not expecting anything as dramatic as that.
Yeah, interesting. Well, my story, which I might have shared on another broadcast, I don't know, it's all starting to blend in, but my story is very similar. I was meditating and had a spontaneous past life experience. It was so vivid and so real and so profound. I saw myself as an artist in Italy, and I, by the way, was an art major in college, and I saw that I had been working with a mentor, and he was taking credit for my work.
Yeah.
I was so pissed at that I decided to take my life. And I felt myself drinking poison and felt it going down my body in this life, and killed myself. And what was interesting, not only did it put a bunch of pieces together in terms of why I was not a successful artist and why it was such a struggle for me, but it also resolved an ongoing stomach issue that I had in this life. And I felt myself, feeling that poison as it went down, but I also felt myself healing from it. And I find that that's so true in terms of getting in touch with past lives, that when you remember these things, yeah, it might hurt a little bit. The poison was not a pleasant feeling, but it made sense. It resolved something in this life. It healed something in this life. And that became my goal with working with people, that it's not just, wow, isn't it interesting that I was an artist? Isn't that cool? It was, okay, so what happened from that? What did you bring with you from that? So, yeah.
I think the work is sacred.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
to approach it as sacred rather than entertaining is what
Yeah.
I try to do. Well, what I do. I don't try to, I do it.
Yeah, yeah. Entertaining. Yeah, and I always tell people that too. You've got to have a pure motive with doing this. If it's about impressing your friends that you were Cleopatra, or,
Yeah.
isn't this cool that I got in touch with my past lives? You might be able to do it for a while, but that's not what it's about. It has a very deep, profound, like you said, sacred
Healing,
purpose.
healing, and sacred.
Healing. Yeah.
Soul healing, spiritually.
Yes. So let's take a little bit of a break. I'm talking with John Koenig, and we are talking about what happens when you discover that you have lived before. We'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. Thank you, John, for being here. This is wonderful. I always tell people that even though I'm doing this work and I've been doing it for over 40 years, I started out with such a level of skepticism that it was hard to get through. And I think that my biggest level of skepticism was about past lives. I would argue with people, people that were true believers in past lives. I go, oh, that's so ridiculous. How could you believe in that? That's just made up by people that are afraid of dying and they want to feel better about it. I mean, I had so many responses to that. Did you ever go through a skeptical phase of this work, or because you just kind of jumped into it on your own experience? What about that?
I wasn't really skeptical, but I thought it was trivial.
Mm.
And I now come to the point of view that it's fundamental. I believe it is the way a universe deity has constructed this whole thing. I believe I'm a soul experiencing life as this elderly white guy, born as a little baby white guy in Harlem, actually. I was the only Caucasian child in the ward, and you could tell I was the pink face one screaming, I assume. But yeah, I think this is how the universe functions. And what I've found is I've come over the years to accept it more and more, and now completely, that it is incredibly exciting. The idea that we're all, everyone listening is on a spiritual mission. We all got a curriculum. I call it spiritual kindergarten. We have a curriculum we're following. We have things to learn here, all of us. And when you live this way, I've been. You mentioned Nazi guard at a Caesarea of Auschwitz just before this life, but I've also been, in my imagination or in my past life experiences, a black slave boy in pre-antebellum America who had a horrible life. So when you've been victim and victimizer, when you've been black and white and yellow, when you've been male and female, it gives you a perspective about humanity that I don't think is available if you think of life as linear, one life, pass, fail. And I believe it is also the way that it is. And I believe Ian Stevenson's work, again, I believe it's proven. I think people that don't accept past life work owe themselves to at least investigate the work of this incredible fellow at the University of Virginia Division of Perceptual Studies, where he tracked, I think it's about 3,000 of these stories from little people who could not have been corrupted like me by watching, Davy Crockett and thinking I was a woodsman in Kentucky. These people just had this experience, and their parents often were alarmed and went to professionals. There are a lot of famous cases of that. There's a Netflix documentary that talks about some that is getting people more and more aware of this thing, that this is the way it is. And once you accept this is the way it is, not because you believe it, but because it's been proven. Everything.
I've had a lot of students that have reported to me that their children have just spontaneously had memories of past lives. I had one student that was walking her son across the street holding his hand, and all of a sudden he stopped dead in his tracks and he said, "Mom, I was killed by a car in another lifetime." And luckily she was one of my students and didn't say, "Oh, honey, don't be silly," So, yeah.
I got to tell you this. For the first time I've ever spoken about this publicly, I had a brother now deceased. And when he was little, he spoke with absolute confidence about his real mother, his other mother, and his other life. And none of us in the family took him seriously. We thought this was just an imaginative kid.
Wow.
A little 4 or 5-year-old. We just thought he was so imaginative.
Wow.
I wish I had known some of this, because I believe my brother may have. If Stevenson's people had worked with him, they might have tracked down this, which to him was so vivid. My brother James, no longer with us, had that direct experience, and we ignored it. So if you got a kid that's having that, don't do what I did and regret that you didn't, look a little deeper, I would say.
Yeah. Based on what you just said, I've had a lot of people say to me, "Okay, well, I need proof that really happened. I'm going to do some research." Do you encourage people to do that? Because I always tell people, don't bother. If you want to, that's fine. But, trust the fact that you got in touch with this and it felt real to you. What about that research?
Again, we're literally on the same page here on the screen. We're on the same page. Who cares? I mean, who cares? And it then becomes only of like prurient interest.
Right.
I'm not in the debate of this is real or not real. I think it's irrelevant. I will tell you this. I did have a friend at the time when I experienced myself as Private Riley in the 1st Continental Dragoons, who did the research and found there was such a unit. It was stationed where I thought it was approximately. The experience reality, though, the cathartic release, once you get beyond the debate, if someone comes to me or you and they want to just find out, is it real or not real? I'll do this session, of course, but I am more interested for the person that says, I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Everything I've done to fix myself hasn't worked. And I've come to believe that maybe there's something else here. That's the kind of client I'm more interested in working with. I assume you are as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's not a party trick. You go to a party and they might have my wife did this once, a tarot reading, and she went to a party and they paid her and she did readings. It was entertainment. This is not entertainment. This is soul work. This is evolution, human evolution. This is authenticity today, National Authenticity Day.
Yes. So what about the fact that the world is very, very, very slowly starting to accept all this? I mean, Eastern world has accepted it forever, but the Western world hasn't. Has that changed things for you? Or, do you go through less of the skepticism with people because it is so accepted now?
Not really. Not really. I don't do that much work in this area. I've got some family issues going on, and I see a limited number of clients. I'm happy to see them. I give them my full attention. But and the thing, 51% of people worldwide, I understand, believe in reincarnation as the way it is. I'll say believe like think it's the way it is. In the United States, it's about a third. And so there are a lot of people believe in this work. I'll say believe in the sense that they think that this is the way it is. Not belief like, a belief, you have a belief, and then you're going to bend reality to conform to your, oh, that's the thing about this work. If you have belief in a deity that is all certainly, let me read somewhere. How do you explain Auschwitz? How do you explain a little boy or girl who's born with horrible deformities?
Yeah.
How do you explain someone getting Alzheimer's? How do you explain all the horrible things? And you got to bend over backwards to shoehorn reality into your belief. I mean belief like I think it's the way it is, not belief like I believe, and belief causes wars and death. I'll tell this story. My wife is from Northern Ireland, and 5 of her relatives were murdered because the people that murdered them did not believe in the virgin birth or something.
Wow. That's a good reason. Hey. Yeah.
So believe, and this is a long time ago. This is 100 plus years ago, around the time of the Irish Revolution, when during this black and tans came into the house and murdered them. Belief, it gets tribal. In this life, is incarnated in this life, we tend to be tribal. We tend automatically to go us versus them. We tend to blame and to get angry. Yeah. And God knows it's happening in the United States of America today. You yank belief out. My favorite guy, spiritual leader, other than the obvious ones, is John Lennon. And he says, imagine no religion. He's not meaning not actually, he's not meaning not to be spiritual, but a religion separates. And imagine a world where everybody is a spiritual path, a bunch of incarnated souls. And I believe, by the way, there's nothing wrong here in the planet Earth. I believe it is perfect, just like the title of your podcast. It is exactly the way it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, John Lennon is my hero. I have a shrine for him in my bedroom. I'm wearing a ring that says love is real. Yeah.
There you go.
John, I think about what he would be saying right about now. I think about that all the time. Where is John when we need him? But, that must be perfect too.
He did his job.
He did his job. Woke up the world. Yeah. So there's something that I read on your bio that says you developed something that you call possibilities process. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that's probably not that interesting for this work. It's in my other life, my analytical hypnotist life. It's a way of doing embedded direct suggestion. Mm-hmm. If I were to say to you, past lives are definitely real, and you're listening, you could argue with it, you could debate. But if I said, well, what if past lives are the way it works? And embedded in there is past lives are the way it works. Mm-hmm. So it's just a technique for hypnotists to use. And then I do a whole structure. Then it comes from average. I was an ad guy. I wrote TV commercials, Duncan Hines cakes, Crisco shortening. I wrote for the New York Stock Exchange, Iberia Airlines, Jeep vehicles. And I worked at Madison Avenue as a madman. And we had a formal structure developing commercials. So I've applied that technology to hypnotism. And I get amazing results from it. Because and it comes also from the work of Noah St. John. If anybody was a reader, he's got a wonderful book called Affirmations, where he was trying to do like Louise Hay affirmations, where you basically say, I am successful. I am like that guy Smalley back in Saturday Night Live. I am great. and he realized it wasn't working at all. He was failing in life. So he said, well, the mind doesn't work that way. The mind is like a Google search. So why am I so successful? Well, that's a good question. And you can debate that question. And frankly, in this lifetime, part of what screwed me up was my dad. A little bit about that. He would say, why are you so Why can't you do anything right? And as a smart little kid, I would think, well, that's a good question, Dad. Why can't I do anything right? You can't argue. If he said to me, you can't do anything right, I could resist. But the question, why can't you do anything right? Or why does everything you do work out?
Mm.
Why are you so accomplished? Why do you so love expressing these things with people? Opens up possibility.
Wow, that's great. Yes. And that's exactly the work that I do. I pose questions to people. I say, okay, this is what's going on. Why is it affecting you? Why is that getting in the way of your life? So that's awesome.
And that's how you started your life, with the question of what's it all about?
What's it all
You know?
about?
And that was how I started my life, disregarding, by the way, I do believe that my dad was absolutely necessary. And I came to terms with him. I had this interesting experience. I was doing a talk for regular therapists, and I stayed around. She was a PhD in nursing, and she was Native American, come to think of it. And she had us do a thing where you imagine your own death. So I'm lying on the floor with 12 other people, imagining our death, and I think I'm stuck. She explained before that some souls get stuck, and ghosts, we call them, right? And I thought, okay, that's probably my fate. And then I began to move, and I bump into my father's soul in this experience on the way to the light, and my dad and I have it out. And I basically say, what do you want me to say? I hate myself? Okay, I hate myself. But it was a lot more emotion than I just experienced. And suddenly I felt the energy change. And what I got my dad's soul saying was he didn't know that my dad was like this with me because he didn't believe that a bookish, shy kid could make it in the world. He wanted to toughen me up. And in that moment, there was catharsis. I had done all kinds of therapy, and I thought I had come to terms with it, right? I had done forgiveness processes, all that stuff. But in that moment on the floor in Exeter, Rhode Island, I suddenly was able to go up to the light, and it all shifted. And we met my mom, who died before. My poor mom was confused. She didn't really even know she was dead. And the three of us went together, and it was amazingly healing. You can go to therapy for a long time, as I did around this particular issue, and not be blessed with that kind of relief.
Right. Yeah. Now, have you ever taken it further to understand your past life connection with him? Because I talk a lot about that.
Yet. No,
Yeah.
I haven't. But I do know that my prior life before this was, I was born in 48. I'm old, right? In this incarnation. This body is getting old. Who I am has been in lots of different bodies. But this particular body is getting worn out. And in 45, I was a Polish kid and got hired by the SS I die in that life. And my dad's father had died in 1939, 38 rather, before World War II. And at the time, if you were, literally Hitler was Man of the Year in Time magazine. My dad admired Hitler, and my dad would joke he was a wannabe Nazi. So I go from being a Polish SS guy to incarnated as the child of a wannabe pretend Nazi. And my dad came by it understandably. He loved his dad, I assume. And when his father died, in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, every Sunday they would march to German music. The American Bund was a big thing. German pride at the time was great. And all this stuff that happened, I'm assuming that 99% of people who felt that way in 38, by 45, were appalled at it. But my dad got kind of stuck in a time warp because of his father's passing, I think.
Wow. That's amazing.
Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah.
And you can go to therapy for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And not make these connections, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I wish they would refer, and I wish they would train themselves in this, not as the first place to look,
Yeah.
but as a place to look.
Yeah. 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 And I think those connections that you were just talking about, even just knowing those connections, there were a lot of people that I would just look at them and I feel this instant connection. And when I explored it in my meditations, it was like, oh, no wonder I feel that way. And oh, no wonder I married that guy. And oh, no wonder this child is mine. Yeah. And it helps to make sense of things. It helps to understand that, you know.
The one thing that I did, I was at a training, I'll mention his name, David Quigley, out in Santa Rosa, California, in past life facilitation. And he talked about how you could do what you just said, was I related? And I said, I'd like to know it was with my wife. And suddenly I found myself in a blacksmith shop in Russia. It was open to a dirt road. And there's this blacksmith, big black beard, and he's banging the metal. And I'm his wife. And he was my wife in my current life, Maria. And I felt so lucky that I had a husband who didn't beat me. I knew that on the night of my wedding, my mother had said, you got to expect this. I had a husband who liked me, who had a great trade. I was so proud of the fact that he could bend metal to his will. And I bring him his dinner. And the facilitator asked me, what does your husband say? When you do past life work, you talk to the person who's working with you. And I started laughing. I say, nothing. He's a man of few words, my husband. And in my life, I wake up talking. I go to sleep talking. And my wife is known as a woman who speaks when it's important. When it's important.
Wow.
And then that life ends, and I have a mandate out of that life. In that life, I felt not heard. I was only a woman in that world, that culture. And my mandate in this life is to part of my mandate is to be heard with the mission.
Well, speaking of heard, you told me before we started that you have some poems. I'm assuming poems that you wrote. That
I
you would
did.
like-
I call them screams of consciousness that I present in my book, 14 or so lives I've experienced in regular narrative. But then the lives seemed to demand more than that. So I let the lives speak through me, and it came out in kind of blank verse.
Well, please
And
read
I don't
them.
mind. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you to choose one of three. One would be one is called Our Autobiographies, about what it's like reincarnation. One, my favorite life of all was a shaman in Africa who dies gorged by a rhinoceros. Or this one I just mentioned, her name was Lena. So either me as my wife's wife, shaman, or one that's designed for all of us. We don't have time, I don't think, for more than one. Your choice, Royce.
Oh my gosh. The shaman one is calling out.
And that was the one I had planned to do anyway, so good.
Oh, good.
It's called Rhino Power. And here we go. I do not know what I'm doing, but I do it well. Like my father and his before, a shaman, a magic man. I communicate with the spirits and all the gods. I chant the chants. I work my rattles, wave my rod. I apply the right herbs and read the entrails of frogs. I know when seasons change, when planting is right, when sacrifices must be made and harvest is ripe. I do not know why I do what I do, but I do it well. When you're sick, you call me and I come ready with spells, potions, accompanied by hosts of spirits and gods. I mark the magic marks, chant the magic words, and when you recover, I'm amazed along with you and wonder what it was I did that scared away the bad and brought in the good. I help you move to the other side when it's your time to move on. And when you're gone, I ponder with your family what evil spirit was the cause of your demise. My totem is the rhino, for I, like him, am steady and strong. When I'm focused, I charge in rhino trance of perfect concentration, head down, horn up. And this is how I die. Focused, head down, trying to get power from a rhino. It's when I finally realize I do not know what I am doing, though I do it well. As a rhino gorged a humble, foolish magic man into his next life with the power of his rhino horn.
Oh, that just gave me chills. That's wonderful.
And I'll tell you about that life. In that life, I knew I had a tree that was my confidant. And I did not tell the tree that I had heard that rhino horns give you male potency. I thought it must be magic. So I thought I could pull it by hypnotizing the rhino. And I did not talk to the tree about that. I did not talk to anybody in the village about that. And what I learned out of that life is the importance of not doing this alone.
Mm.
We are, like you and I here on this shared screen, colleagues, light workers working together. And spiritual work, you got to check out what you're doing before you get gorged.
I love that. That's great. Do you have time? We probably have time for you to read the first one.
But well, the other one, I think, that I call it our autobiographies, which kind of sums up the book. If all the world is a stage, you and I the cast, who watches the show? God? Our higher selves? Our souls? Or are these dramas simply stored in forgotten shelves, forever unread, forever unseen, perhaps not even by ourselves? Unless old age finds us musing, yes, this was me. I lived an amazing dream now coming to an end. Is that all there is? Tales told by myself, to myself, and no one, nothing? Empty and meaningless, like a play performed in a theater where all the seats are empty. Did it happen at all? Not even a dream, just a nothing for no one. Or do you and I play a role in this great epic with a divine audience in rapt attention to every twist and turn of our plots? A series of never-ending beginnings, each a step closer to transcendence, the divine. Something at stake, of far more significance than any life's success, failure, sadness, grief, or joy. So I choose to believe, and invite you, dear reader, to join me in this magical quest to be not your mind or your body, but a soul witnessing divinity unfolding, infinite growing, becoming one with whatever creates this universe, the cosmic observer, universal creator, master storyteller, that which creates this before the beginning, past the end, always present, waiting to be found and then refound over and over, joyously, rediscovering and rediscovered within.
Wow.
That's our autobiographies.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, John. How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, my website is possibilities.nu, N like Nancy, U like unicorn. My book is on Amazon. It's called My Autobiographies, an introduction to past life exploration for personal and spiritual growth. And I stress an introduction. My job is I'm looking for the person who's new to this. If you really want to do exploration and you're a more advanced soul, I recommend this lady over here. A few others that I know. I'm for the new one getting started in this work.
Yeah. Wow.
That's it.
Well, that's all we have time for. I so appreciate your words and your authenticness. And just to remind everybody, it is National Authentic Day. So go and be your Eunice.
I got to show you this. Here it is.
NESS. There you go.
And that's the cover.
Thank you so much. And I'll see everybody in a couple weeks. And reach out to me if you want to do some deep work. Thank you.
Thank you, Royce.